2025. My team, Carlton, is this year celebrating the 30th anniversary of its last premiership win in 1995 against Geelong. It's been 30 years since our last premiership, and in that 30 years we've also won 5 wooden spoons. 5 wooden spoons. We didn't win one in the VFL period, but 5 since 2002 and 2018. Now, June was also when I celebrated my 79th birthday. Pause for clapping and cheering. And in my lifetime, Carlton's won 9 premierships. So I've been lucky. Very lucky. I know that. I'm just going to give you a list of all those 9 premierships that happened in just my lifetime. 1947, we defeated Essendon by a point. Now, 1947, I'd have been, 15 months old, so even though my mother says I was born with a Carlton jumper over my back, I really don't remember much about the game. 15 months, don't remember much. But I do remember the 1968 grand final when we beat Essendon in a pretty low-scoring affair. 22 years of age. My first premiership. You never forget your first one, do you? Had to wait 2 more years till that famous comeback victory over Collingwood. Incredible. 44 points behind us, half-time, and I remember watching the game and seeing Carlton trudge off and watching the Collingwood guys slapping each other on the back, and I thought, we're done. And I heard Lou Richards say, the Magpies, some of these Magpies are celebrating a bit early. There's a lot of footy left in this game. And Lou was right, because after half-time, Teddy Hopkins lit up our forward line and we came back from 44 points down to win by 11 points or something like that. Handball at all costs, Ron Barassi said, and away we went, and it was just amazing. 72, we outgunned Richmond in a pretty high-scoring event. According to my little notes here, 28-9, 177 Carlton scored. 22-18, 150 was Richmond's score. Interestingly, the next highest grand final was in 1985 when Essendon 26-14, 170 defeated Hawthorn, the hapless Hawks on that day, 14-8, 92. That still remains the highest scoring grand final. And I think, used to be, that Richmond's losing score in 72 of 22-18, 150 would have won a lot of grand finals since that time. 1979, another classic win over Collingwood. But in August 79, I got married and my wife was a Collingwood supporter, so about a month after we got married, Carlton beats Collingwood in a grand final. This was a test of our new relationship, our new marriage, but we got through it. Fantastic. 1981, we beat Collingwood again. Another test, but we stuck through it. I was magnanimous in victory, and my wife, being a bit of a pessimist, didn't expect Collingwood to win, so we got through that. 82, we beat Richmond in what was a pretty fiery grand final. 1987, revenge, we beat Hawthorn in a fast-paced grand final. I remember, I think the winning point in that grand final was David Rhys-Jones. Dermott Brereton was an absolute champion footballer, and David Rhys-Jones was on him that day, or vice versa, whichever way you want to put it. And David Rhys-Jones won the day, and I thought being able to blanket Dermott Brereton stopped Hawthorn's drive, and we went on to win it. And I genuinely think that it was purely down to the job David Rhys-Jones did. 2 fiery blokes. I mean, David Jones would rather punch you in the face than kick the ball. But that day, he buckled down, did his job, and did it to perfection. And of course, 1995, our most recent flag, a dominant win over Geelong. Could have been better, but we took the foot off the throttle a bit. Now, that 95 Carlton side is still considered to be one of the best teams of the modern era. And that grand final in 1995 gave us 16 cups. 16 premiership cups in our little silverware cabinet, more than any other side. But then along came the AFL 2000 and other clubs came in, and Essendon and Collingwood have now joined Carlton on 16 premiership wins. You can't expect to go for 30 years without winning a premiership and still be on top of that premiership ladder. Sadly, I genuinely think that I will not see another Carlton premiership in my life, but hopefully, fervently I hope, my son will. But what happened to Carlton since '95? Well, since winning that premiership, not a great deal really, but we've only finished in the top 4 once. That's 25 years. That was the end of the home and away season in 2000 when we were second. Second in 2000. 25 years since we've won, since we've been in the top 4. Now the closest to that really is Essendon. They're on 24 years. They were last in there, I think it was 2001. So they're 24 years and counting. So even though both Essendon and Carlton are on 16 premierships, looking at the way the teams are running at the moment, I would suggest that Collingwood's going to hit 17 quite substantial time before Carlton and Essendon move on to 17. But let's look now at Carlton's draft history. Certainly had our share of failures during the late 2000s to early 2010s. Some horrific decisions have been made. I'm not an expert, but incredibly, none of our top 40 picks from 2008 to 2012 were on our list by 2016. Not one of them. How could we get it so wrong? And that 5-year stretch is often cited as pretty much major reason why we struggled so badly in that period. Who was responsible for those decisions? How could we get it so terribly, terribly wrong? I just don't understand. Drafting. Our drafting in the 2000s has got to stack up as one of the most turbulent amongst all the AFL clubs. Even though we've nailed some top picks in our recent years, our overall first round strike rate has been patchy at best when you consider what every other side in the AFL has done. I mean, seriously, how come we've got this aspect of the club's playing list so spectacularly stuffed up? Truly, it beggars belief. But from 2000 to 2015, we had 15 first-round picks, and only 5 of those played 100 games. Where's all our 10-year players from that period? Only 5 played over 100 games. Josh Kennedy, top 5 pick, turned out to be a superstar. Absolute superstar. I watched him playing and cheered him on, but he became a superstar at West Coast because we traded him for Chris Judd. Now, you could say that Chris Judd's best football was behind him. Josh Kennedy went on to become a superstar full forward. What might have changed had we been able to keep Josh Kennedy at Carlton? I often ponder that question. But in stark contrast, you look at clubs like Geelong, Sydney and Hawthorn. During that exact same time period, they had fewer top picks, but they developed far more long-term contributors. How did they get it right? How did they get it right? We got it so wrong. I honestly believe that our turnover in coaching and our turnover in lists that we've had has played a significant role in bringing us to where we are today, a 30-year drought for premiership. But arguably since 2013, you could say our recruiting has improved significantly. I mean, I think you can put up a good argument for that. I mean, we've got guys like Patrick Cripps, Jacob Weitering and Sam Walsh all becoming elite players for our club. Our 2024 draft haul and blokes like Jaeger Smith and the Camperelli twins, one I can't wait to see how they turn out, also shows pretty much a more strategic and balanced approach to our list management. And it's about bloody time, if I say so myself. So while we've had one of the worst draft returns in the league during the late 2000s, you could say we've rebounded fairly well, and there's probably a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. But let's have a look for a moment at our current list and see what I think about that. Bottom line is, I don't think we're going to be in a premiership contention within the next 5 years. In other words, I don't think we're going to be playing off for a flag before 2030. We may well end up playing finals by 2030, but I don't think we're going to be in the big one on that last day in September. So looking at our list, I have a question. I'm going to list 13 players, and I want you to tell me whether you think how many of these will be part of our next premiership, given the scenario I've just put forward. Nick Haynes, 33. Nick Newman, 32. Sam Docherty, 31. Zach Williams, Adam Saad, Patrick Cripps and Mitch McGovern, all 30. Blake Acres, Ratio Fantasia and George Hewitt, all 29. Mark Pittonet, Alex Chincotta and Charlie Curnow, all 28. Now, if, as I believe, we're not going to play in a grand final before 2030, what do you do? Now, I like all those players I just listed. I think they're great. I love watching them, etc. But are they going to be part of our next premiership side? I genuinely don't think so. I mean, Nick Hayes and Nick Newman, after 5 years, can be 38 and 37 respectively. Ain't going to happen. So what would you do to begin rebuilding our club at the end of 2025? I've just listed 13 players that I think by their age and by the fact of where we are simply will not be in our next premiership side, because that's going to be after 2030. But have a think about what Richmond did at the end of last year. They lost 10 senior players through retirement, delisting or trades. Here's the breakdown of what happened at the end of 24. Departed players were Dustin Martin, retired after 289 games. Dylan Grimes, retired after 229 games. Marlon Pickett, retired after 78 games. Sam Naismith, retired after 30 games. Jack Graham, free agent to West Coast after 117 games. Daniel Rioli, traded to Gold Coast after 160 games. Shai Bolton, traded to Fremantle after 113 games. Liam Baker, traded to West Coast after 110 games. Matthew Coulthard, delisted after 4 games. Noah Cumberland, delisted after 18 games. So adding up the career games, Richmond lost 1,148 games of AFL experience from the T's 10 players. Huge leadership and talent vacuum, especially with club legends Martin and Grimes stepping away. And let's not forget Jack Riewoldt. He retired from Richmond at the end of the 2023 season after playing 347 games, kicking 787 goals, ended up being Richmond's second highest goal kicker after Jack Titus. And he was a central figure in their premiership era, claiming flags in 2017, 19 and 20. Think of all that change in that club. But my son and I went to see Richmond Footscray on June the 22nd out at Marvel. And even though Richmond suffered a big loss, the thing I noticed that when the final siren sounded, every Richmond player was still giving 100%. That was a stark difference to what I saw with our boys against North Melbourne. We seemed to just put our down tools, put the cue in the rack, and let North run away with the game. And really getting those 5 goals in the last quarter to get us within a couple of goals at the end of the game really was no kudos to Carlton. I think it was mainly North Melbourne putting the cue in the rack to a certain degree than us gaining any real ascendancy. But we've been seeing these lamentable performances for years now, and it's not unreasonable for all of us to start asking the club, when will this end? Now we have a new president, Mr. Robert Priestley. I'm not going to criticise Robert Priestley or any players per se, but I will just make a few points. Some of the things in his first address to members, he emphasised the importance of building a high-performance culture that's dedicated to excellence and relentless in looking at ways to improve and get better, no matter how small. Also saw an interview where Robert said that we were laser focused on improving our on-field performance. Spoiler alert, Robert, I think our laser's out of focus or it's totally stuffed. Now, I am over all these nice things, building a united, inclusive and values-led culture and all that sort of stuff, all sounds nice and lovey-dovey and the rest of it. I'd rather just cut the crap and give us the results on the field that we've all been waiting for the last 30 years. I am sure that's what every Carlton supporter would rather see than hearing about how we are also united, inclusive, and we're living a values-led culture. Fluffy words mean nothing. And speaking of culture, if you haven't read it, get this book. Zach Tuohy, The Irish Experiment. Beg, steal or borrow the book, but read it. It is absolutely fantastic. But what you're going to do when you get this book, The Irish Experiment, is read it from page 1 right through to the end. Don't just cherry pick a chapter and say, I'll read about this bit here, I'll read about that bit there. Go from page 1 all the way through, because you need to do that to get the context of the Zach Tuohy story. If you do it that way, following Zach through his AFL career, you're going to hear him explain why Geelong has had such ongoing success and why Carlton has such an ongoing lack of it. He doesn't say it in those terms, but hear him talking about Geelong and his experience there, and hear him talking about Carlton and his experience there, it's chalk and cheese. Zach Tuohy, The Irish Experiment. I recommend it to you. Get it and read it. Now, we've now got Graham Wright at Carlton, and we all know exactly what Graham Wright did for Hawthorn and Geelong. And hopefully he'll be able to do the same thing for us. But the reason why he's successful at Hawthorn and Geelong is because all the leadership at those two clubs empowered Graham Wright to do exactly what he wanted to do, what he thought was necessary, and he was successful. This may well prove to be Graham Wright's Achilles heel at Carlton, because I have some doubts. Will all our club leaders, both individually and collectively, be strong enough to give Graham a free hand to make all the necessary changes across all areas as he sees fit? Will all our club leaders, both individually and collectively, be strong enough to put Carlton's interests above their own and allow Graham to make all those necessary changes? If he doesn't get the support at Carlton that he should and that he had at Hawthorn and Geelong, he's doomed to fail before he starts. But time, as always, will tell, won't it? I sincerely hope, for Graham's sake, that Carlton gives him the full support. So finally, for all those people calling for Michael Voss to go, I'd like to finish off with some interesting statistics. And they show just how Voss's record stacks up when the Carlton Football Club has had no less than 10 senior coaches between January 1, 96 and June 30th, 2025. I'm presuming that we're not going to have a premiership coach in 2025. Call me the Oracle. Okay, but this is in my lifetime. David Parkin coached from 1991 to 2000, a winning percentage over 105 games of 56.2%. Wayne Britton coached from 2001 to 2002, a winning percentage of over 46 games of 39.1%, and won our very first wooden spoon in 2002. First one. Dennis Pagan coached us in 2003 to 2007, winning percentage over 104 games of 24%, and in 2005-2006 scored our second and third AFL wooden spoons. Back-to-back wooden spoons. Brett Ratton, 2007-2012. Geez, you crucified Brett, Carlton, you really did. Winning percentage over 120 games of 50%. Mick Malthouse, rolling of the eyes, 2013 to 2015, a winning percentage of over 54 games of 37%, and in 2015 gave us our fourth AFL wooden spoon. Thanks, mate. John Barker was an interim coach in 2015, a winning percentage over 14 games of 21.4%. Brendan Bolton, good old Bolts, 2016 to 2019, a winning percentage over 77 games of 20.8%. And congratulations, Bolts, our fifth and final wooden spoon. David Teague, 2019 to 2021, a winning percentage over 50 games of 42%. 42% over 50 games. David Teague stacks up very well against all these other coaches, doesn't he? Think of that. Ashley Hansen, interim coach in 2022, winning percentage over one game of 100%. Get him back. Get him back, 100%. And finally, Michael Voss, 22 to 2025, a winning percentage over 86 games after the last game of 52.9%. 52.9% puts Michael Voss just behind David Parkin, who was our last premiership coach. Just behind David Parkin and just above Brett Ratton. Amazing. So for me, my opinion, that record means that Vossi stays on after 2005. I don't know for how long, but he stays on. We have to start getting absolute stability. But it also means all the previously ignored hard, necessary changes to his entire support staff, in fact to everyone in the Carlton Football Club. All those hard decisions that have been ignored just have to be undertaken, and hopefully Graham Wright can do that. To give Carlton Football Club the best chance of a further premiership success, nothing less than a total rebuild from top to bottom can save us. That's what I think. Thank you one and all for watching. This is just my opinion, that's all. So please feel free to post your comments below and have a good day.